Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
Welcome back to the SCIF. The team has been on the road constantly for the last 2 months. I think we put out some pretty good stuff. We've made international headlines in Armenia and in Beirut. I can tell you that. We made a big difference in what's going on there and the narrative. And we're going to continue to talk about Christian persecution. Nigeria is our next stop. By the way, we didn't do a cold open today because I gave the team off. It's Memorial Day or Labor Day, so we're flying thin this morning, but it's all good. We got a great show for you today. Thierry Laurent is going to come on. We just had an assassination in Ukraine, and it's not who you think, or behind it is not who you think, or at least who is being told in the press that is behind it, what you're being told. So Thierry is got a 10-year experience on the ground in Ukraine like we do, one of our trusted sources. Tomorrow we'll have Pete Blaber on for Ukraine SITREP to talk about the military situation. But I think you'll really enjoy Thierry. He's going to bring some breaking evidence on what's happening in Ukraine. It looks like collapse. That's the theme of the show today, is collapse. Ukraine is collapsing. The matrix is collapsing. Trump is now canceling mail-in ballots. And on that subject, Chris Gleason will be here with us at 11 a.m. to talk about all of that, because that's a massive, massive, massive change. And the machines need to go next, and we hope they'll move movement on that. We're going to stay on it, as in we're going to stay pushing it to get rid of the machines, because that's the other big part of the problem. I want to say hello to the crew. You're cleared hot in the chat. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for the engagement. Really love it. Thanks for spreading the word on the show. And we will continue to try to get everything you want and answer your questions. So if you want someone out there on the show, let us know. We'll try to do it. And please go to whatfinger.com. Put them in your daily scan. They do a lot of our content, and we have an agreement with them, and we appreciate it. And we would like you to support them, because we are blocked. And on that subject, we have had massive we really pissed somebody off in the Middle East. I'll tell you that. They don't like us talking about protecting Christians in the Middle East. We've had literally for the last week massive DDoS attacks. If you've noticed, some of the sites are loading pretty slow sometimes. That's because we've got dozens of IP addresses coming out of Google Cloud, of all places, every day coming at us. It's kind of whack-a-mole. You have to block them and shut them down, block them from the firewall. And it's been a mess, but we're continuing to fight back, and we're surviving and thriving, and they don't like that. So they've been against us now for a week pretty heavily. On that note, if you have a chance, go to cdm.press, top menu, make a donation or sign up for our no-ad subscriptions. We need resources here to fight this fight. So please do that if you could help us in that manner. We've got a lot to talk about today, multiple stories. Today is Labor Day, September 1. I'm your host, L Todd Wood, and this is your mission brief. Ukraine warmongers killing their own to hide evidence. That's interesting. Thierry Laurent is going to talk about all that information you're not going to get anywhere else. So make sure you stay for him in the second segment. George W. Bush, the disaster. I think we all knew that, but we've got a great article up on CDM which goes in depth into that, and we'll walk through that with you when we get to that point in the show, after Thierry and after Chris Gleason. And by the way, at the end of the show, I've got a real treat for you. I just want to show you how early we were on all of this stuff. And we've got an interview, our first Information Operations Show, which is my show, kind of a long form interview format with George Eliasson, who we interviewed direct from Donbass in East Ukraine in 2020. So you're going to hear direct from him about what was actually happening there and not what you heard in the media. So that'll be in the last hour, but I think you're going to really, really enjoy that. Trump welcomed 600,000 Chinese students. I love Chinese students. Of course, they're our enemy and they're invading us and they're all spies, but he loves Chinese students. What's up with that? Lindsey Graham calls for U.S. military to disarm Hezbollah. That didn't take long, did it? Oh, Lindsey, let's bring in the U.S. military from the good old U.S. of A. Let's bring those boys from Iowa and put them against the Shia Christians in southern Lebanon, or Shia Muslims in southern Lebanon, and add more chaos in that region and more deaths and taxpayer money for the U.S. of A. Hopefully not going to happen. So we will be back in a minute. I've got Thierry Laurent. I think you're going to really enjoy that interview. He's live with us, and then more to come later in the show. But stay with us. We'll be right back.
Celebrate our newest launch, Rev 7. I'm bringing you an amazing introductory offer, plus an exclusive overstock sale that you're not going to want to miss. Rev 7 is our premium energy drink that tastes great and gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. That's because there's no sugar and no caffeine. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7 that for a limited time you can try our 3-pack absolutely free. Or check out our Percale bed sheets. I can't believe I'm even going to say this. Every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes, only $29.88, even the queens and kings. Inventory is extremely limited, so order now.
Pandemic, we can never be caught unprepared again. And so many Americans, when COVID hit, they had nothing in the house. Stores were shut down and doctors' offices were shut down. And even if doctors prescribed drugs, hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, pharmacists wouldn't fill the prescriptions. That was a nightmare.
Now the situation is much worse. We have these horrible supply chain problems. In our emergency medical kit at the Wellness Company, we have 8 prescription drugs that are all potentially life-saving.
Most people who died with COVID, they died in the hospital because they didn't receive early treatment.
Every American family should have one of these.
I can tell you the Wellness Company kit is the answer.
When Johnny comes marching home again, hurrah, hurrah, we'll give him a hearty welcome then, hurrah, hurrah. Oh, the men will cheer, the boys will shout, the ladies, they will all turn out and belong.
Welcome back to the SCIF. Thanks for joining us today. We're on podcast, we're on Gettr, we're on X, we're on Rumble. We are loading up the show on YouTube. If you're a YouTuber, please follow us there. We lost tens of thousands of followers a few years ago. We're trying to rebuild. We're trying to rebuild on X. CDM1 is our Rumble channel. Even if you watch us on one platform, sign up on the other, sign up on Rumble, and just boost our numbers for us. We would appreciate it. That helps a lot. Also on X, X is growing nicely on CDM and all of our individual paper channels and my personal channel. So please help us recover our 500,000 followers we lost on our social media. When they deplatformed, debanked us, blew up our firebombed our facility, cyber attacked our computers, we're still dealing with all that. Make a donation today if you can. It would be really helpful. We've got a lot of resources we got to bring in over the next little bit. I'm going to bring in Thierry Laurent, one of our favorite guests, my favorite Frenchman. Thank you for joining us today, Thierry. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Todd, for welcoming me again within your show, which is always a great pleasure, in fact, to share the research that I am conducting in regard of the actual context and the different events, talking about the conflict between Ukraine and Russia.
So you sent me some images. I have those ready. So I'm going to turn it over to you to tell what you want to tell.
Sure. So basically, the reason why I wanted to talk to you about the assassination of Andrei Parubi, and we will go through the history of this man. Mm-hmm. This is due to the fact that Donald Trump right now is trying, in fact, to frighten the Soros family. And this is the story of Parubi disappearing is in the context of this lawsuit. So we're going to go through details in the way that you can understand what is at stake. And meanwhile, I'm making a call to Tulsi Gabbard, because if she had the opportunity to read my book, she will get a lot of very interesting information that will help us, in fact, to sue the Soros family in regards of their activity of meddling all over the world, and especially in Ukraine. Mm-hmm. We will see how Soros and Parubi were linked in terms of financing to destabilize Ukraine. And actually, the reason for which it is so important is due to the past of Soros. Don't forget that in the 90s, Soros had been making his fortune by betting against the UK pound.
Right.
And he has been able, in fact, to gather an amount of fortune that is absolutely gigantic, that allows him right now, in fact, to interfere within different states. And if we are looking in depth into the organization Open Society, we can see that he is hiring about 4,600 people that are helping him, in fact, to operate all those destabilization. And I'm just wondering at this stage if he hasn't been putting a plan together in the way that he will be leveraging an opportunity against the dollar. Mm-hmm. Don't forget one thing. There was a big destabilization of Ukraine and a provocation to Vladimir Putin to interfere within the state. And this has been forcing Russia, in fact, to gather the Great South and to put different platforms necessary in the way that they will be getting rid of the dollar. Mm-hmm. And therefore, this is extremely detrimental to the U.S. economy because the U.S. debt is not supported anymore.
Yes.
So despite the fact that Donald Trump is trying to put different policies that are kind of antinomic in regard of the goal he wants to achieve, at the end of the story, what we're seeing is that the U.S. economy is at a very high risk right now. Just wondering if there was not a Machiavellic plan in the mindset of this guy to make sure he will be taking advantage of the situation and make another fortune the way that he has been doing the same thing with the UK pound.
So just for our audience sake, I mean, he basically caused a situation to have the pound devalue and then shorted it and then, covered his short much lower and made billions against the UK government. Yeah. And he may be doing what you're saying is that he may be betting against the dollar and then, yeah.
My manager, when I was living in the US, was telling me, when you want to understand the problem, you need to follow up on the money. Mm-hmm. So basically, it's not very much about the geopolitics here or a conflict between Russia and Ukraine. This is pretty much, in fact, a fight, in fact, to support the dollar or to go against the dollar. Who knows what is in the back end of this story?
Yeah.
Actually, it can be also a way to devaluate the dollar and to crush the U.S. economy in the way they will be able, in fact, to replace the dollar with a numeric dollar, digital dollar, in the way that those guys will be putting a full control on the population. Because this is what we are seeing right now in Europe. The BCE is starting, in fact, their test on their central bank digital currency, meaning, in fact, the digital euro. And we are foreseeing the fact that those guys, they try, in fact, to put the control on all the populations. So let's see how Paroubi is completely linked, in fact, to this story. Andrei Paroubi, let's look at his past history. The guy is the co-founder of the UPA movement. It's a political neo-Nazi party. And he has been co-founding it with Oleg Tyanibok. If we look at his childhood, the guy is kind of disturbed and ended up into a psychiatric hospital because he was extremely unstable. And he has been escaping from the hospital. On top of it, he used to organize his political meeting in a SS Galicia uniform, carrying Luger pistol hooked on his belt. So
Galicia is the Bandera Nazi area of West Ukraine. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, Paroubi is a fanatic extremist, which ideology is indexed on the Banderism. Those people who have been collaborating with the Dash Reich SS division and organized the massacre of 1.4 million Jewish during the Second World War. The famous massacre that has been occurring in Kiev is set in Babi Yar. And actually, what is very surprising, and I have been challenging one of our ministers, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, to denounce the fact that the boulevard that is bringing to the monument of Babi Yar is on the name of the guy that has been organizing the massacre. This is just like, this is schizophrenic, you know?
Yeah.
So basically, this guy was extremely close of a different neo-Nazi organization, the one that has been set up by Dmitry Yarosh, Pravi Sector, who is known for being extremely violent. The Azov group, which symbol are explicitly Nazis, set up by Biletsky. And this guy has been coordinating the effort of the different group, in fact, to contain the counter-revolution of Maidan. Actually, what was very surprising is that Donald Trump, during his first mandate, has been tagging the Azov group as a terrorist organization. And who has been lifting this tag? That was Biden.
Yeah.
So basically, you know, what is very funny is that on a internal political point of view, Donald Trump is associated to a fascist, when in fact, this is the Dems that are raising the capacity of those different groups in Ukraine that are explicitly relevant to the Nazi ideology. This is completely ridiculous. So basically what we are observing here is that depending on the people that are in power, they are completely reversing, in fact, what is the real fact. And this is typical to the leftists, you know. So basically, what Andrei Paroubi was during the Maidan coup, he was set as the chairman of the Maidan self-defense. He was the commander of the Maidan self-defense. Then he became, in fact, the chairman of the National Security Board. And he became, after the coup of Maidan, the president of the Rada, which is, in fact, the parliament. And I do believe that he might have been helped by the CIA the way that Bandera was, because Bandera, after the Second World War, has been becoming an agent of the CIA before to be eliminated by the KGB.
Interesting. So we have a picture of this guy. I'm going to bring that up. This is him. Or who is this?
This is, of course, Andrei Paroubi. We see him in 1988. He is speaking at a political party meeting. And as you can see, he's dressed up with the SS Galicia uniform. And he has the famous Luger at the belt. You see it on the right side.
Interesting.
Okay? And so basically, this guy, during the coup of Maidan, has been responsible for the shooting that has been occurring on the 20th of February 2014. And actually, he was working to organize it with the former president of Georgia, Saakashvili, to recruit, in fact, the snipers that were coming, in fact, from Georgia.
So this is where, just for our audience, this is where 111 people were killed in Maidan, something like that, by a sniper.
Much more than that, actually. And we estimate the killing of more than 600.
Okay.
And actually, the snipers, they are set up in the 8th floor of the Ukraine hotel, which was just in front of my apartment. And on the left-hand side, where is the movie theater. Okay.
Yeah, that's where I was during the invasion. So I know Hotel Ukraine very well.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So what was absolutely astonishing is that Olga Bogomolets, the doctor that was recepting, in fact, all the wounded, she was saying that the people that has been killed, the Berkut or the Maidaners, they were shot by exactly the same bullet. But the Berkut were shot in the chest and the Maidaners in the back. If you look at the way that the Berkut were nassed, they were just packed up against the post office in Kiev during the coup.
The Berkut were the, just for our audience, sorry to keep it interrupting, I just want people to understand, they were the shock troops or the anti-riot police for the government, right? So
this is pretty much the National Guard equivalence in the US.
Right.
Okay, so they were just pushed against the post office, which makes sense because the Ukraine hotel is just in front. So basically, we can explain the fact that those guys were shot in the chest. Okay, and the Maidaners were just showing their back to the hotel. So basically, it explains everything. Actually, this guy has been also organizing the massacre of the Odessa Syndicate the 2nd of May 2014 with the help of Yarosh, who has been leveraging his group coming from Dnipropetrovsk, in fact, to completely destroy the opposition of this famous revolution. He was backing up the Mariupol, the Kharkov massacre. And what is the apogee of the craziness of this guy is that on TV in 2018, in October, I remember because I was in a economic forum in the Danube region, this guy was claiming that Hitler was the greatest Democrat of the 20th century. And this, of course, was crossing the limit. That is why he has been expelled from the radar and he has been pushed out of the political field, which is kind of surprising regarding what has been happening to him. But we will go through this and we will explain, in fact, what is going on right now. So how, in fact, Parubi is completely linked to Soros. When I come back from Ukraine, the first thing that I did is calling, of course, our parliaments, and I found a secretary that has been telling me that the first person I should have been speaking with was a certain person called Pierre Person. And a few years after, this guy, who was from the Socialist Party, became the director of campaign of Macron. And when I was discussing with this guy, he was telling me, listen, we know everything about that. You should not put your nose in it. We are very aware of it, and you should forget about everything. As soon as this guy has been telling me this, I was like, wow, something is wrong. And what was very surprising is that at the moment I started, in fact, to write my book, Ukraine, A Warning to the World, one day I was on Facebook, and by hazard, and thank you, Mr. Zuckerberg, for helping me in my research, I fall on the profile of a guy called Nicolas Fury. And when I saw that he was supporting Ukraine, I got a certain interest, in fact, to watch what he was writing about that. And I discovered this guy with a certain guy called Quentin Guillermin, who was very close to Pierre Person, has been building a foundation called Cosmopolitan Project Foundation. And this NGO is very close to Soros. Actually, when I saw, in fact, the number of expense that those guys they had, I understood that somebody was, of course, financing. And in WikiLeaks, with the Macron leaks, I've been discovering that Guillermin and Pearson were discussing, in fact, the matter of Maidan, because these NGO leaders. They were back and forth from Paris to Kiev, Kiev to Paris, and they were organizing the brawling that has been occurring there. What I have been discovering, looking at their profile, is that they were collaborating with another NGO coming from Poland called Open Dialogue Foundation. So I went on the website of this Open Dialogue Foundation, and I have been finding the P&L of the full Maidan financing. And which name is appearing within this P&L? Andrei Parubi, Dmitry Yarosh, meaning all the neo-Nazi organization that has been allowing, in fact, the coup.
Yeah.
So that was absolutely incredible. And digging into the story and digging, what I've been discovering also is that the famous Nicolas Furet, who was in fact the Treasury Secretary, was very close to Stéphane Séjourné, who became the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Macron. So basically, all those guys, they were meeting with each other, in fact, to summarize what was going on the spot from the summer 2013 to the moment of the coup. How Macron could have been avoiding, in fact, to know what was going on, it's absolutely impossible. And in regard of the behavior of Macron for the last 3 years, we understand he was aware of everything. What is very surprising right now is that we are looking forward to understand also that Macron was receiving the son of George Soros. And within, in fact, this French NGO, there is another girl called Colleen Aymar, who is working for change.org, and she was putting together all the petition necessary, in fact, to support neo-Nazi criminal and to free them. That is absolutely unbelievable. And within their profile, we are seeing a picture of the leaders of Cosmopolitan Project Foundation, the French NGO, and the Polish one, into the mayor house in Paris with the mayor of Paris, Miss Hidalgo. Unbelievable. The loop is completely closed. So basically, what do we know right now is that there is a huge interaction between Macron and the Soros family. The Soros family that has been financing all those NGOs. Actually, the Open Dialogue Foundation is also financed by Google. And what we're understanding is that all those great people, they are very close, in fact, to neo-Nazi parties.
So what you're saying is that the Maidan all the way through this whole operation in Ukraine has been closely tied to Soros and Macron, is what you're trying to say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And actually, I have been discovering something very interesting. I went to all those websites and I've been checking, in fact, their addresses. Open Dialogue Foundation is located in Brussels, 400 meters from the European Parliament. And you know where Open Society is set up?
Where, in the Parliament?
500 meters from the Parliament. So this is like a triangulations between the Polish NGO, Open Society, and the European Parliament. There is absolutely no doubt that there is a convergence of interest and organization that has been bringing the situation where we are. So basically, what we can also extrapolate is that Open Society is just a terrorist organization that is setting up coup. And I do believe that the administration of Donald Trump might be using all the information I'm providing for you right now in the way that he can consolidate the lawsuit that he's putting together to make sure that the Soros family is going to jail. And I will go even further than that, is that I would confiscate the assets of Open Dialogue or Open Society.
So I just want to give a plug for your book. If you want to learn everything that Thierry is talking about, Ukraine, A Warning to the World, it's available anywhere. historyofbooks.com if you can go there and buy it, would be best. But it's available anywhere books are sold. So really early on this. We're good at being early here at CDM and credible and right. So Thierry has been on that. So back to you, my friend. I've got all these images if you want to watch it.
So actually, there are a lot of things that has been happening the last 6 months. And I want to underline the fact that there was a common destiny between the contractor of all those massacres and the performer. Last March, in the 14th, Damian Ganul in Odessa was murdered. And that was the guy who has been perpetrated and organized, let's say, on an operational point of view, the massacre of Odessa. And 2 days ago, Andrei Parubi, I was just going back from a trip, actually, and that was the greatest news I was expecting for the last 11 years. Andrei Parubi was executed in Lviv. And that was like, the way it has been done, because the guy has been shot 6 times in the head, we can imagine that somebody whose family has been wounded or killed within this massacre has been taking a revenge.
So I am hearing from sources that it may be Zelensky who killed him because he thinks that they're looking to remove him and put in Zaluzhny. What do you think? That's what I'm hearing from sources.
Regarding, in fact, Zelensky position?
Yeah, the Zelensky may have killed Parubi in order to stop whatever coup they're going to do against Zelensky, as in the deep state, Victoria Nuland crowd. So that's one theory, but back to you.
Well, I can agree with this. I would say that would be, an attempt to erase the proof of whatsoever has been executed.
Yeah, exactly.
So basically saying, no, this guy didn't exist. He don't know anything. Because when you are in a position that you organize a butchery on the spot, you have all the information necessary, in fact, to make sure that you are holding, in fact, the guys that are responsible for whatsoever has been happening after that.
Yes.
There is also another eventuality, is that the FSB might have been targeting this guy because he was targeted as a terrorist in Russia. And you remember what Vladimir Putin was saying, whoever was involved in the coup will have to pay the price for it. It can be also the revenge of somebody whose family has been suffering.
Yes.
And it goes, in fact, those two assassinations between Ganul and Parubi is just explicit. We are going to punish those who has been killing our people. So there are 3 theories. For the moment, we don't have any detail regarding who could have been having any interest in to do it. But nevertheless, this is a great news. Actually, not so much, because it would have been much better, in fact, to prosecute the guy, to make sure he had, in fact, to speak about who has been mandating him, in fact, to organize the shooting on Maidan, the shooting in Odessa, and so on. So basically, as this guy was a very embarrassing...
just for our audience sake, around the Maidan timeframe in Odessa, a bunch of Russians were murdered, burned to death, right? So that's what you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, having a guy like this with the capacity of speaking is extremely dangerous, in fact, for those who have been organizing and financing all of this. This is also a way to protect Soros. Then Parubi wouldn't be able, in fact, to testify against him.
Yeah.
But there are so many convergences, and especially with this PNL that I have been discovering on this website, that, there is absolutely no doubt possible. And what is even more funny is that there are some names that were identifiable explicitly in the PNL, and some others that has been completely blacked. So basically, who are those names that has been blacked?
Yeah.
That would be very interesting, in fact, to make this NGO arrested and to force them, in fact, to testify. So basically, this is the reason why I'm saying Tulsi Gabbard, please read my book and do whatsoever necessary in the way that you will be able to neutralize those terrorists. What is very shocking now is the declaration of the president of the European Parliament. I quote her, deeply shocked by the terrible murder of the former chairman of the Verkhovka Rada, Andrei Parubi, in Lviv. My heartfelt condolence to his family and friends. This is the blatant proof that EU tries to revive and rehabilitate Nazism. Mm-hmm. The victim of this terrorist are just ignored. What is important is that we're saying the butcher is such a saint. Come on, how we can kill such a poor guy? This is really disgusting. Yes, so basically the European Union that want to appear like a democracy with a system of laws that respect, in fact, the European citizen and so on, it is just, in fact, a demo-fascism that we are witnessing as a birth.
Well, it's very clear in Europe they're bringing back fascism. I mean, they're arresting people for Facebook posts, all over Europe. So
yeah.
It's
so
really
basically, the victims are ignored, and what counts for them is just their federalization agenda, and everything else, meaning the human rights, the lives of all those victims, and so on, forget about it. The things for them is to make sure that Russia is the enemy, and at the end of the story, they will use, in fact, this biais of information, in fact, in the way that they can say, now all the nations are disappearing in Europe. We are just one nation, it's called Europe, which is not going to be accepted at all. Because what we are seeing here is, in fact, if you do a parallel between the USSR and the European Union, there will be so many common points that we know exactly how this stuff is going to end. USSR has been collapsing because all the interests of each nation that has been constituting this bloc were completely antinomic, and people wanted, in fact, to be related to their own culture, their own language, their own money. This is exactly what we are going to face in Europe. And this entire monster, this Cerbère, is going to collapse completely. I don't give them 3 to 5 years.
So let's walk through these photos. This is him, as you said, speaking with his Luger and his Nazi uniform. What is this?
This is the full schema of the organization explaining the different link between member of the government of Macron, this French NGO, the Polish NGO, the link with George Soros Open Society, the Change.org link with these NGOs that has been supporting, in fact, neo-Nazis prosecution like Nadia Savchenko, because she was jailed in Russia. And after she got freed and become a member of the parliament, she came back to the front line and she was killed about 4 to 5 months ago. Mm. So basically, it is called karma. Whatsoever you are doing wrong in this world, one day you have to pay. And I do believe that people that are listening to this interview will understand that everybody has been fooled, and there are some people in the back end of this story that has been pulling the strings for their own interest.
Completely.
Not for the interest of Ukrainian, not for the interest of Russian, not for the interest of American, neither of European, but for their own interest.
Well said. Well said. That's exactly what's been happening in all these different countries, especially in Ukraine, but also in the United States. What is this photo?
This is the plan of the location of the Polish NGO, mm-hmm. Open Society, and the parliament at the bottom of the picture. So basically you see that those guys are very close, and there is an obvious convergence of capacity, in fact, to discuss with each other, in fact, to organize what we have been witnessing for the last 10 years.
Wow, that's good research, Thierry. And this?
This is a PNL showing the name of Andrei Parubi and all the financing that has been put together to support the coup of Maidan. And if you look at the dates, you will see that this story has been starting in the middle of 2013. So basically, there was a premeditation of whatsoever has been happening on the 20th of February.
Yeah. Wow.
They have been just provisioning all the necessary materials. And if you look at the full document, you will see the amount of money that has been spent is just unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's crazy. And this is the last photo.
This is my best. Actually, I was participating to a conference in Cambridge, and I was in front of a former officer of the CIA and the two advisors of senators and congressmen. And actually, in fact, to put them into the corner, I have been showing them the proof, the full proof that you cannot deny at all, that the DoD has been financing different screen company to test the COVID in Ukraine. Wow. And all the records are in the procurement database of the United States. And actually, on the Meshnikov Institute website, this is the front page, okay? There is Soros' name that is popping up saying, we are financing this laboratory in the way that we will be testing new vaccine of emerging viruses. And all of this was set up much before the pandemic that has been triggered at the beginning of year 2020 in China. So basically, what I have been doing is putting all the evidence on the table to those people, and they were kind of very, very uncomfortable with the document I have been putting on the table. And I say, if you really think that the United States is a democracy, it is time for you to dig into this.
Yeah,
because there is a screen company existing that is called Labyrinth Globalers. The CEO is Karen Saylor, and she needs to be here into the Senate to justify how the COVID virus has been shifting from Wuhan to Odessa Institute.
Amazing, Thierry. Anything else you want to get out, my friend?
I think that we have been saying everything necessary in the way that your listener will be aware that they have been totally fooled. And on the COVID story, and on Ukraine, and on everything.
Amazing, my friend. We'll have you back. Thank you for everything, and talk to you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Todd. Have a good day.
Take care. The bird flu is circulating. We're getting more and more press, more fear mongering, more warnings about this. First, let's start with that. What say you on?
Well, what I say is it specifically is not circulating. It's in animals. There's one human, maybe two transmissions, no human-to-human transmission. And stand by, everybody. If there is some sort of sudden human-to-human transmission, you should immediately be suspicious that gain of function was involved with that. Just the fact that they're taking an animal virus and going nuts on it in the press and talking about it all the time, that to me leads me to believe that they have concerns that somebody is doing something with that virus, because this would not happen naturally, in my opinion.
Our world is changing rapidly. Many crucial systems we depend upon are collapsing. And the most important system that is failing is the food supply.
Mr. President, this Council is more than aware of the multiple challenges and threats the world is facing today. But the threat of famine, people starving slowly to death, must be a red line.
these food prices are going to keep going up and up, and they're going to keep feeding excuse after excuse, narrative after narrative.
Yeah,
so you're going to have to get off that treadmill and start getting more autonomous with your own food growing.
You want to make sure that you can eat, because frankly, food is the biggest issue as we are going through these transitions.
But amidst the chaos, there is a path to resilience. Marjorie Wildcraft is the female leader of the survival and preparedness movement. Marjorie has taught millions of people how to grow an abundance of food in a grid-down situation, even if you have no experience, are older, or out of shape.
I've spent decades finding the fastest, easiest, and funnest ways for the average person to be able to grow a lot of food. I've created a step-by-step process that's so simple that even kids to elders have been using it in order to grow a lot of their own food. And you can too, even if you have no experience, you're older, or you're out of shape.
Growing your own food is like printing your own money. Get started today.
Welcome back to the SCIF. Thierry is really a joy and a treat because he's very knowledgeable, and you're not going to see him. Nobody else will put him on because he's got all the info. I mean, to tie George Soros to the Ukraine thing with documentation, with the receipts, as they say, is pretty strong. Again, please support our no ad subscriptions. Make a donation if you can to help us attack all of this cyber stuff we're dealing with right now. And appreciate your help. I'm going to bring in Chris Gleason. I see him in the green room. Chris, I was going to have some time to like have a big balloon explosion or something on the screen for you like being right all this time. Trump is against mail-in ballots. So I didn't have time though, but how are you, my friend?
Doing good. Doing good.
Excellent. So Trump says he's going to end mail-in ballots. Do you think that will happen?
Well, he can give it the good college try.
Yeah.
We know, however, that the corrupt judiciary that doesn't just reside at the federal level might have something to say about that.
Yeah.
So I think so. I mean, you were there for the show trial that we had in Pinellas County.
Yes.
So, I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic. The problem, obviously, that Trump has with that is one, the corrupt judges, but two, within his own traitorous party, to include Ron Pudding Fingers DeSantis.
So, he can issue an executive order, but that's got to be codified. It will maybe take care of this election, but if Congress doesn't put that in law, then it has to be reenacted, or it can be removed quickly by another president, right?
Well, it's also a states' rights issue.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of moving parts to this, but at the end of the day, what he's trying to do is the right thing. Whether or not he's going to be able to accomplish it is another. Really, what it's going to take ground troops. It's going to take the grassroots activists to demand that this happens. And I honestly believe that if we actually did have real elections, I think a lot of the incumbents probably would not be retaining office
on both sides of the aisle.
On both sides of the aisle.
That's the problem, right? And you're right, because we didn't want Biden like taking over elections at the federal level. So it's going to be a hard needle to thread here, I think, for Trump.
Well, we're doing the best that we can here in Florida to help him along, whether he likes it or not. We're doing it, and we're fighting the corruption in his own home county, in Palm Beach County, with the rigged selections there that we caught. The supervisor of elections there doing that. Her defense was illegally funded by taxpayer dollars. We have the same thing in Pinellas County, and so I'm challenging the crooked judges who feel that they can rule on their own elections
and seal all the evidence.
And so last week I filed an amended petition for writ of prohibition against the crooked appellate court from taking any further action. And I actually petitioned under all writs to the Florida Supreme Court for them to vacate all of the void orders that the conflicted judges have issued up to this point. So we'll see if the Florida Supreme Court does the right thing.
So let me just jump in there because people may not know the history. So you ran for supervisor of his elections in Pinellas, and you found out that over 200,000 mail-in ballots were requested on the same day on the weekend when the office was closed and were obviously not valid. You found judges' names on the list, and so you sued to overturn the election, and the judge threw out the case and sealed the evidence, and here we are. Is that
and what they did is they appointed county attorneys to represent the crooked supervisor of elections, and we found out this week or last week we found out that nobody ever put in an appearance for the crooked supervisor of elections in her personal capacity, because she was sued in both her official capacity and her personal capacity as a candidate. And so that means that as a candidate, she defaulted.
Well, right. There's a summary judgment then, right? Or something like that.
We might have a new supervisor of elections here in Pinellas County pretty quick.
Wow. So she just ignored the personal case is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty harsh. So where are you at now, man? What's going on? What's going on with how do you say it?
Bongiorno.
Yeah.
Bongiorno.
Oh,
so he had a crooked, he had one crooked judge, and he got her to disqualify herself. So then he had a show trial hearing last week, and the defense counsel, who also is being paid for by Donald Trump's tax money and all the other Palm Beach County taxpayers' money, he motioned that because Bongiorno had appealed the case, that the judge had no jurisdiction. And what Bongi had filed was he had filed some motions to not only disqualify the first judge, but to have all of the rulings that she made after she was disqualified made void, which is the law.
Yeah.
And the new judge is saying, oh, no, I can't do that. And Bongiorno, we've done a lot of research on this. And you said, well, actually, you can, Your Honor. Here's the rule. It's very clear. And the judge said in the court hearing, show me two case laws that support this. And so Bongi pulled up a whole bunch of case law and got it to the judge. And the judge still ruled against the case law.
Of course. So in Georgia, we have a situation, I don't know if you're up on it, where Jason Frazier was appointed to the election board, and the board refuses to seat him, and the judge ruled they were in contempt and fined him $10,000 a day of taxpayer money. But they're fine with that. They'll just pay the $10,000 a day instead of seating this election integrity guy on the board.
But they're not actually paying it. It's us.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, isn't that special? It's pretty wild. So what else, Chris? What else you got, man?
So we're preparing federal cases at this point, and if I do not have a good result with the Florida Supreme Court, we will be going to the U.S. Supreme Court to fight this.
Wow, good for you. Amazing. So, thank you last minute for getting on, but I saw the Trump thing and I said, I got to get Gleason on again. So thank you. And we'll have you back, my friend. I'm sure maybe tomorrow. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Take care. Ciao.
Okay,
bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, in the case of hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, these are two medications that have been FDA approved for use in humans for decades. They are very, very inexpensive. Interestingly, available over the counter in almost every other country other than the US and Canada. You can just walk into a pharmacy and buy them like we buy Tylenol in much of the world because they're that safe. And we've known for decades that ivermectin has very strong antiviral properties. It has anti-inflammatory properties, and both ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine are what we call zinc ionophores. They help to move zinc from the bloodstream into the cell, which is where it needs to be in order to fight off a virus. So lots of application for these, and we have every reason to believe that those drugs also will likely have some efficacy against H5N1 or a number of other respiratory viruses that we may meet down the road.
If you haven't noticed, gold has reached a new high, all-time highs actually, and keeps going up every day. Why is that? It's because precious metals are a long-time historical store of value. And if you own a portfolio and you have assets in the fiat currencies, i.e. stocks, bonds, cash, or whatever, you're vulnerable to hyperinflation, which is coming as our debt explodes another trillion every 90 days. It's really scary. So how do you protect yourself? Go to Advisor Metals. If you look on any of our CDM.press sites, about halfway down, there's an ad for Advisor Metals. Click on it, fill out the form for your contact info, and Ira Bishotsky will contact you and talk to you. It's an easy conversation. There's no sales pitch. He's completely verified by us. He has a regulatory background we've checked into. We've checked with his bankers. We've checked with his IRA custodians for metals, and we can highly recommend Advisor Metals and IRA. So go to Advisor Metals. If you call them directly, tell them we sent you at CDM, and he'll definitely take care of you. But protect your portfolio because you really need to. It's coming. Thank you. Welcome back to the SCIF. Always love Chris Gleason and our great team of reporters around the world. We've had people on Ukraine, in Ukraine, on the ground since 2014. We built a network there when I was writing for the Washington Times, and we started Tsarism, our first Eastern European site, tsarism.com, which covers the entire former Soviet Union, tsarizm.com. If you love news from that region, that's where it's posted primarily. Obviously, anything important flows into CDM.press, which is our major channel, kind of global channel, where we bring anything that global news needs to report. But Tsarism was started in 2015, and we've been building and growing that team on the ground. That's why we have so much information on Ukraine, because we've been on the ground for some time, 10 years now. On that note, I want to start walking through some stories here. This is an important one on the Ukraine war on armedforces.press. You know, we've had Pete Blaber, and he'll be on tomorrow on Ukraine SitRep, walk through the history in Ukraine. This is another angle on that, but very good article, part 1 of 2, from a writer via Darren Gobb, who runs our Montana site, and also with Armed Forces. He's on armedforces.press as well, helping us with the editing there. So check that story out if you want more background on what's going on in Ukraine. When people say, well, Russia invaded, send them this article and it will explain it. This one we've talked about briefly with Chris. Trump is ending mail-in ballots. This is really important, and we will see if it actually goes through. But this is half the Matrix's way to steal elections. The other half is the machines, of course. We haven't heard as much on the machines. We're hopeful that that will happen prior to next year, 2026. Again, good information. Go there, check it out on armedforces.press. Excuse me, that's on cdm.press. But if we go to armedforces.press, actually, that's the same article, my mistake. Let's move on to this one. 1 second. Here we go. The disaster that was George W. Bush. Really important article. You know, Bush was, there was a narrative around Bush. It was false. Mission accomplished sign there, classic sign where he gave the speech on board the aircraft carrier after the Iraq War, and then the Iraq War killed another few thousand Americans and $1 trillion. So he restarted the forever wars. Actually, his father restarted the forever wars. So the Bush family is pretty nefarious. I've learned, we talked about last week with the Syrian situation and the Lebanese Christian situation. Well, the Bush family started that war and then, got in bed with Assad, who attacked all the Christians in Lebanon. That was a quid pro quo. And then you had Bush too come on and do the, keep it going for daddy. So I think there's really nefarious history in the Bush family. We didn't know this at the time. I was a Bush supporter. I was defending him. Of course, the Iraq war was all above board, but now we know it was all a lie. So this is a good article on cdm.press on the nefarious Bush family. Now, Peter Bernegger, one of our great contributors that works with Chris Gleason, a great article on Act Blue and the money laundering, which is still not being dealt with effectively by DOJ. Why haven't they shut this down? Billions of dollars illegally coming into campaigns on both sides of the aisle. Maybe that's why. But we need to hear a little more action, Pam, on Act Blue and this money laundering smurfing that we've been screaming out about for years here, primarily through Chris Gleason and Peter Bernegger. So check this out on cdm.press. One more article on the military side. We like to tell truth. We don't care where it lands. This one lands on Trump, but it's a negative article by Michael Yan on Trump enabling the invasion of the United States with 600,000 Chinese students. Who knows what's in Trump's mind? A lot of pushback from MAGA on this. Maybe he's got some kind of deal with China, but he's allowing the invasion of the U.S. I mean, I'm sure none of these 600,000 are spies in our universities with their technology, right? I mean, that's what's happening, that Trump is just enabling and allowing. Why? We don't know, but we're going to call it out no matter where it lands. Last article I want to highlight. Tariffs are so positive that they must be stopped. And so the appeals court ruled against Trump's tariffs. I don't think that'll last. There's a great tweet or Truth Social post by Trump on this in this article. By the way, the Manhattan.press is our military channel, and not military, our economic and business channel. We're going to be posting a lot more of that content there. So if you're looking for some great business news, which we'll be building CDM business through that channel over time, but that is the place we're going to be adding all our business news. And while we're there, go to the top right menu and click on the Manhattan bestsellers. This is our bestsellers list, which competes with the New York Times bestsellers list. And the big difference, we don't have any bias in this list. It's simply the best books. We have some editors' picks at the top, and then adult fiction, nonfiction, politics, history, young adult fiction and nonfiction, children's fiction and nonfiction. Just the best-selling books, just the ones that click the most times through the checkout. There's liberal books on here, etc. It's just the best books, the best-selling books. And if you want to buy the book, you can click on checkout and you can buy the book. And also, if you go to checkout, it goes to the CDM bookstore. Just top of the page there is a search book. You can buy any book you need for business, for work, for the beach trip, for the fall, for a trip on the plane. Buy it there from us and not through Amazon or some of the other nefarious globalist actors that just are taking your money and not taking care of you. So with that, we're going to take another break. I went long with Thierry, and we got to pay some bills. So we'll be right back, and then we will talk about, we'll do the interview I mentioned. So we'll be right back on the SCIF. Stay with us.
Watching my friends gain more and more weight. And then eventually, I got to tell you, this is a little dark, but bad diet literally killed my whole crew.
Wow.
Diabetes, a stroke. I mean, all kinds of stuff. It's like, you had a stroke? You're not even 50 years old. You guys got to quit eating this stuff. Your body knows what's what. You're not conscious of this. But that's why people will go to the refrigerator and they'll grab this and that and the other and put together this outrageously elaborate combination of foods. Your body's trying to reach balance. Unbeknownst to us, our bodies are always trying to reach homeostasis. You can't eat all of this stuff and expect to live a long time. And one thing led to another. And I went, forget this. We're going to make our own product. So we partnered with one of the world's top 3 biochemists where nutrition specific study is concerned. I said, all I want is the best nutritional and immune support product in the world. So we mixed it in yogurt. It's a powder. I got a bag of it here. I keep one on the console all the time, just so I can show people.
Yeah.
And it's a powder. Now, this is not candy. This is hardcore nutrition, and sugar is an enemy. And most people do not know that the reason these bellies are showing up on people all over the place, your body makes fat to store the toxins it can't get rid of. So it just puts them over here. But I can tell you this, you take this for 30 days and then lay off of it for 2 or 3 days, and you'll go, good grief, give me some more. Skin, nails, hair growing back. Cut yourself and it heals in half the time.
I'm David Cross, and you may know me from my election integrity work, but I also own U.S. Asset Management, an investment advisory practice. I've been an advisor for nearly 30 years, and one of the questions I get asked most frequently is, do I have enough money relative to other people my age? And while that's an interesting question, it's also the wrong question. The right question is do you have enough money to sustain your lifestyle for the rest of your life? This is a question you should know the answer to. This is what we do. Check us out at us-am.com and look for our big proud American Eagle logo.
We have foot, slogging over Africa. Foot, slogging over Africa. Boot, moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the war. 7, 6, 11.
Welcome back to the SCIF. Again, thanks for joining us on this off day. And we gave the team off today, so we're kind of producing on the fly, and we didn't do a cold open, but we'll be back tomorrow full strength with some great guests. And Pete Blaber, for one, on Ukraine sit rep, and there's so much going on. It's like daily now, but it's like the final collapse is coming, and we're going to detail it, and we're going to be right since 2014. So stay with us. I have, on that vein, an interview with George Eliason, a reporter that is one of ours in the past, directly in Donbass, East Ukraine. Before the 2022 escalation started, the war was already going strong with Ukrainian troops shelling Russian-speaking villages in Donbass. So this is an interview with George 5 years ago in 2020, but it gives you a context of what was happening at the time. So I think you'll really enjoy this, and then we'll wrap up the show after this. But here we go. I hope you enjoy this. Welcome to the Information Operation. I'm your host, L Todd Wood, and we have our guest host today, George Eliason, live from Ukraine. His connection may be a little bit waffly, and if so, we'll go audio only, but hopefully we can get through it today. We've had a couple days of problems. George, welcome aboard. Thanks for coming.
Hi, Todd. Thank you.
George is a long-term reporter in the region, the war-torn region, I might say, and he has a lot of experience in the area and in the information operations that have been run overseas. Before we get started, I'd like to say, just send up a prayer for President Trump, who's in the hospital with coronavirus, obviously, and that's a whole another story in itself as to how that happened, and we may get into that at some point in a later episode. And George, I understand President Poroshenko, or former President Poroshenko in Ukraine, is actually hospitalized as well for the same thing. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And you were saying earlier he has double pneumonia, and that's actually, I had COVID and I had slight pneumonia, but it's basically where a destruction of a portion of your lungs when your body overreacts to the virus. So it's pretty serious. So hopefully both of those guys get better. Before we get into the actual plot of the show, I want to talk about Biden and the debates, and because that just recently happened, and I think it needs to be touched on. The one takeaway that I had from the debates was that the series of lies that Joe Biden told. The first one was very obvious, that he had never called the military a bunch of stupid bastards, which he, the video's on YouTube for anyone to see. And the second one was that he said all of the reporting on Hunter Biden and his actions with Burisma and the corruption in Ukraine were discredited. That's absolutely not true. They're just not reported on by the mainstream media. CD Media has a network on the ground, which you're part of, a big part of, George, in Ukraine. And we have been breaking stories for a year. There's over 70 articles in our investigation section on cdm.press where you can go in and read everything we reported. For instance, I'll put the wires up here that Hunter Biden sent, was received from Burisma, and about 80 grand a month for a period of time, almost $4 million. We were the first to report these last November, the actual wires. And there was another $12 million in payments to Biden-controlled companies. Joe Biden allegedly received about at least $900,000 from information that's come out of Ukraine. So these are not discredited allegations. They're just not reported on, except for people like us and John Solomon and others. So I know the American people have wondered at times, George, what's going on? You have the media who is coordinated, or at least the corporate media that's coordinated against Trump and the populist movement, the America First movement. You have probably Communist China in this cabal. You have the DNC. You have the security agencies. You have Silicon Valley, who are all coordinated against the American people. And we think this is a military-style, military-grade capability that was developed for use against our enemies, that's being used against the American people. So it's called an information operation, hence the title of the show. And that's, what we want to really get into over the next few months is explain to the American people in multiple episodes exactly what is going on in their own country, because I think everybody feels something is going on. They just don't know what it is. So George, you're the expert in this area. What is an information operation?
Well, first of all, an information operation isn't propaganda. It's not something that's designed to advise you on anything or give you information. It's to control the information. Information operations are designed to get into your core emotions. And what they try to do is move you on your emotions from one point to another, change your actions, make you do something. And eventually, what this is for is to affect the decisions of a leader like Donald Trump. Now, if you look at the history over the last 4 years, everything from starting out with protests, going into riots, the impeachment, then you had the economy goes up. Now we have an event like COVID. Now he's fighting the economy again. And all these things are playing out as a battleground in media. And the media is, for all intents and purposes, being run by the intelligence community.
Okay.
Okay. So when you even look at media, you look at Gettr and Michael Gettr, they're big players in media, and all the companies that provide intelligence right now to the U.S. government. And what we're looking at in terms of that, if you look at the CIA, 90% of the CIA personnel are contractors, roughly.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of contractors.
Yeah.
So that every TV station, every big network has their own experts now,
mm-hmm.
and all these people are working for intelligence companies.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's important to grasp too is where this all started under Bill Clinton and how it started. Richard Clark was the National Coordinator for Security, Infrastructure Protection, and Counterterrorism in the United States, 1998 to 2003. Well, he got the big idea to bring in private contractors. And the first two he brought in, have you ever heard of Stephen Emerson?
No.
Well, he was a reporter. He's a Fox pundit once in a while. But he had a group called the Investigative Project. And he hired a woman by the name of Rita Katz. Now, before he hired Katz, she worked as an assistant sales clerk at a gift shop. That's a qualification for intelligence. Well, Clark started talking to them because they networked really well. And this is how this all started. All these people that had no business in intelligence went around talking to people. Look what I found on the internet. And then they got letters of recommendation. And they built that up and took that to congressmen. And the congressmen started getting their own private intelligence from these people, which was basically, we're looking at the time frame and the skills they had hitting Google. That was it. But they were finding terrorists everywhere. The coup de grace on Stephen Emerson was when he just started declaring entire cities in the UK under Al-Qaeda control. David Cameron actually called him an idiot, just told him to shut up. That was the last we've ever heard of him. But you've got to understand that this built up the culture inside the intelligence community. And that's what people are dealing with. They don't look at, citizens as people. Your pawns on a chessboard, your AI pieces in a video game. And it doesn't matter what they do to you because you're not real. So when you look at, from 2016 onward, they started branding people as being Russian bots, Russian influence and everything. It never would occur to any of them that they're wrecking lives, businesses, etc. Now, the thing about Katz and Emerson, they were actually going and meeting with two presidents. They sat in two White Houses under Clinton and under Bush. All right. If you can understand the scope of that, people with this low level of skills are writing pieces that are going into the president's daily briefing, telling him where Al Qaeda was, influencing the beginning of the Gulf War, from there, the second Gulf War, and everything about it. I mean, if you look at it, the second Gulf War was based on information from Curacao, and Katz brought in information that supported that. She was eventually caught making up videos showing Al Qaeda killing people, murdering people. All right. I don't know what her state is today, but that's what was going on. Another one. Now this one's kind of funny. Back at the beginning again, after 2001, and there were a lot of people that jumped up. They got into the intelligence game. They had no expertise in intelligence, and all of a sudden they were players. A guy named John Mesner. Now, John Mesner's claim to fame was, he became the Patriot pornographer. And, his actual line was he had his wife pose for pornographic pictures and sold them on the internet. This is the quality of people that they weren't just bringing intelligence to the U.S. government. They actually started training them. You get up around 2005, 2006, Congress put a mandate to all the agencies that they had to start doing OSINT intelligence. And the agencies themselves, none of them were equipped for that. The CIA is the CIA. They don't have a front face on the internet. That's all secret stuff. Not going to be hacked that way. So what they started doing was hiring out to these subcontractors.
Like Edward Snowden and others.
Well, not even that quality in the beginning.
Yeah.
One of the more famous ones, and he's part of the information operation today, a guy named Aaron Weisberg. Weisberg started out as an anti-jihadi site going after American citizens, tearing down their websites, calling their places of work, getting them fired from work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He tore down one of the largest independent news organizations that there existed right around the time of the Occupy movement. Okay, they actually, on rumors, the FBI pulled warrants and had the service pulled, shut it down. It never recovered. So you're going from 1 million hits a day, visitors, to there's nothing there. And they did it with a vengeance. The FBI called them a threat to national security. CIA, they were interrupting investigations into real terrorists, but eventually they took it over. And it got to a point around 2005, 2006 that this one figure stood up. And honest to God, this woman was like Indiana Jones. Have you ever heard of R.J. Hillhouse? Never. Well, she was a senior member in the intelligence community inside. She's a she ran Cuban rum from East and West Berlin, smuggled jewels from the Soviet Union, just did a lot of cross-border stuff all over, the Eastern Europe. Now, she is the only person in the history of the ODNI that when she wrote articles, specifically about this, complaining about the contractors, what it was doing to intelligence and that it needed to be changed, twice the ODNI answered her in the Washington Post as an op-ed. She's the person they've ever done that with. And they said, yes, this is a problem. Yes, we're going to deal with it. The CIA is going to start cutting back on contractors soon. Well, of course, that never happened, did it?
Well, it's got to be a big financial incentive for a lot of these companies to make a lot of money, right?
Well, you're talking billions and billions of dollars.
Yeah.
This is an industry where you could lose $500 million and really not be worried about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's
serious
just,
money. Yeah.
Well, we'll say from 2017 till now, and within a 3-year period across the industry, they wanted to hire 3 million new people. Okay, 3 million new people working for the intelligence community companies. Now you think about that. No training, no nothing. How do you pick up 3 million people? What are they doing? They're plugging software. They really don't care.
Yeah.
And because the companies work project to project, they're taking intelligence with them company to company to company. So nothing's very secure anymore. Anything they do find, as long as they sell it before it goes over to the agencies, it's not classified. Only becomes classified when it goes in out. So there's big problems with that too. Now, where this leads into crossing over into information operations. Now, we mentioned Michael Chertoff, okay, as far as media goes. The intel companies have tremendous pull, and they have a lot of investment in network TV. When you're looking at the bigger networks, that's why they're there as the official experts anytime they talk about anything. But these are people that work for companies or own companies that have clients, and they're there promoting their clients' needs. Jim Shore
Right.
did a lot of good work on that.
So conflicts of interest, basically.
Well, it's not even. It goes way beyond that because they're pulling their customers' interests way ahead of U.S. interests.
Similar to Chalabi in the first Gulf War.
It's actually the same thing.
Yeah.
The same thing. So now you take that up a level and you put it into information operations, which is it goes beyond giving false information, fake information, or your customer's information. Now you're going into countries and setting up situations where the U.S. government actually has to act on something. All right.
Say that last sentence again. You broke up that last sentence. Where you see what?
You're actually setting up situations in foreign countries where the U.S. government has to react to something.
I see. Yeah. Okay.
So when you look at the color revolutions, now George Soros funded a lot of these, but there's a lot of money behind that, and you have, setting them up. It goes way beyond an intel gathering operation. It's an action operation. Now, companies like SCL, Cambridge Analytica, IOTA Global, they're, for all intents and purposes, they were one company. They're all inside SCL. SCL is Strategic Communications Labs. And what they do this for is war. They do elections, they do war. What came out in Ukraine was for war, all right? And it transferred over to the US. Now, going beyond, into how it is developed, and you have a lot of people talking about different technologies that are out there today, what they are, what they can do. And what's more important than the tech itself is the people behind it. Where that started, 2007, the DoD developed a program called IIA, or Interactive Internet Activities. All right, they developed it for the Gulf War in Afghanistan. And essentially, it gave public affairs personnel and the commanders a way to communicate locally with people. So they could go online, they could go to local websites, they could send emails, post on bulletin boards, etc., and interact and do the hearts and minds.
George, you're getting a lot of interference on your mic. I don't know if you're touching something or. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
No worries. Keep going. You're doing great.
What that actually did was give very, very limited. You knew who your audience was because you were picking the publications that they were, you were going to write an article or whatever. But the IIA took the field out of the hands of information operations people, information war people trained in that. And they gave software to public relations people with no training, with no anything. So you have a very, very limited scope. You have a very, very limited result. That was the first step.
And what time frame was that?
That was 2007 to 2011.
Okay.
They were doing that. Now, the next step up with that was what was revealed by Stanley McChrystal as his DARPA software. That's what he's using against Donald Trump right now.
Defeat Disinfo, I think it's called, right?
Right, Defeat Disinfo.
Yeah.
Now, the program itself was designed to actually start providing influence. They needed a software to go online with in war areas like Afghanistan, Iraq, whatever, and start influencing people. So what they wanted, what DARPA did was set up a program and fund research to that end. Now there were about 20 to 30 different programs that were funded. None of them are what you'd call DARPA certified, okay? And both the IIA and the DARPA, it's SMISC, neither one of them was secret. They were open to the public the whole time. The reason for that is because the private sector was always a steps ahead of what they were doing, what the military could do. The military limited itself. Now, the biggest, plus with it, it gave the military real-time ability to influence sentiment. Okay, well, how do you check sentiment? You know those little emojis that you click on Facebook?
Yeah.
That's what they're looking at.
Yeah.
That's what they're looking at. It measures, monitors, interacts with groups, so it will post memes, it'll do things like that. Now, it gave the opportunity to see problems that were coming up because you could follow specific accounts with it. But when you look at it, big problem is that it worked at the community level, but it didn't drill down to the people that you wanted to talk to. It was all at the community level. Now, how many different types of political thought are in your social groups? Okay, so you're sending one message to a dozen different people, types of people. So you have very limited effectiveness that way. Social media, it works a little bit better because, it works, people share things. So it's coming from someone you trust or whatever. So you have, that's working for you. But you're preaching to a choir essentially. Now, the next step upon that, and the reason why it didn't work as well as hoped for, both the IIA and the SMISC were made by software programmers and engineers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they may know networking, they may know social media, they may know all these things, but that's not where information operations is at. It really, the program could actually, be horrible, hard to work. But if it's geared towards strategic communications, from that angle, it's going to be tons more effective.
Yeah.
And these programs, they naturally couldn't. So what we're talking about now, what was used in Ukraine and what's being used in the United States is a program and programming called TAA. It's Target Audience Analysis. Now, the biggest difference with this is that the people that designed it, it took over 20 years, $20 million. These are IO, PSYOPs, captains, leaders. They're interrogators, military interrogators. They're psychologists, and I'm not talking about the pushy kind that puts you on the couch.
Right.
They design interrogation programs for black box units.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. These are those people. So what they want from you is, they're going to take. They want information and they want you to stop doing something. So, it's more or less drop a hammer.
Right. And you wrote a lot about this was used first against Bernie Sanders, right?
Yeah. Bernie Sanders, it started out, he was actually the first Russian influenced political candidate in the US 2016 election.
Mm-hmm.
He was accused of hacking.
I remember Hillary saying that.
Yeah. And, you went beyond that. You had CrowdStrike saying that.
Mm-hmm.
CrowdStrike, originally he, was a hacker of the DNC.
Mm-hmm.
So, with Sanders, honestly, there was never a way that the DNC was going to let it run away. And we saw that play out.
Right. Twice.
Exactly. Well, the first time, it should have, for the Democrats anyway, they should have taken the cue and reformed the party.
Right.
That's when we learned it's not a party, it's a corporation and we'll do whatever we want.
Right.
Against Sanders. So, none of that on their end should be a surprise. But with this particular program, when you look at it, so you have all these psychologists doing these things. They design a program not around software engineers, all right? They designed it around behavioral psychologists that are more interested in teaching you like Pavlov's dog. Okay, you're going to do what we want, and that's all you're going to do.
Like not vote or not vote for Trump, or
and give you the reasons for it.
Yeah.
Now, with TAA, at the heart of it, it's the ability to diagnose the exact groupings that exist within target populations. So you know exactly who's there. So it's not just an overall community like the other programs are.
Yeah.
Then it ranks the groups. Okay. Now, according to the degree of difficulty or how much influence they can put on them, it determines the best way to influence them. And then it ranks them on the degree of influence they have in either promoting or mitigating constructive behavior. So they're looking for specific people in the groups. They're finding out everything they need to know about those people. And when they, even with something silly like a meme, okay, in social media, well, they're going to find out by using this program what you move on, what makes you angry,
What makes you take action? Yeah.
What makes you take action, and that's it. And you're
Right.
going to do that in every different direction. What do you fear? What are you afraid of? Go hit that little emoji again.
And it's the amount of data to micro target and have, I've read, there's 5,000 data points on every American citizen.
Exactly.
So they can get very targeted to individual level and then try things. And, this is all artificial intelligence. So they can try different things over and over until they find out what makes you take action.
Actually, that's, this goes way beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what it does is produce the communications or triggers that are going to move you. So it picks up what kind of message is going to move you. It doesn't necessarily design the message itself. That's left with strategic communicators. Okay, these are professionals in the field. That's what they do. It involves a comprehensive study, like you just said, all those points. But it's not, to understand people. So do you get them? What scares you the most? What would scare you the most right now?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And then it builds it up on that. The other part of it is now if you can pull those screens up.
Yep. Which one? The first one. There you go.
Yes, that was the first one.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at that as a base screen, okay, you have all these different parameters, base parameters. You can group this any way you want, as much detail as you want. When you get into beliefs, political beliefs, religious beliefs, social beliefs, every part of what makes up a person, in their life.
Right.
Level of literacy, their current behavior. Are they active in society? Are they out there protesting? Are they that kind of person, an activist, or laid back a couch potato? So by doing all these things, and then you go to the transformative.
Yeah, hold on. Oh, you want me to go back?
No, we can go with that one.
Okay.
The second one.
Okay.
To see.
Uh-huh.
Now, if you look at this, you'll see all those bars, and you see the red dot on it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for each one of those attitudes, you can adjust it on the bar, and it'll change the group slightly.
Mm-hmm.
That's how much control they have over this.
So then they have a developed message that will make you take action because they know what that is now, and then they deliver it the correct way, whether it be over Twitter or in an email or whatever type of delivery you take action on typically, because they know your history.
For information operations,
Mm-hmm.
now you're looking at something that works in media.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it was the reason why we talked about the influence of the intelligence community on major media today.
Mm-hmm.
When they're running an operation, an IO operation, they're working with media.
Yeah.
So
that's obvious. That's been obvious for a while.
You're designing the messaging through this, okay, through the use of measuring the entire psychology of a group and micro-targeting messages that's going to move, that are key to moving particular groups. So even with it's especially obvious with non-news stories. You'll see the New York Times, CNN write the same story the same day, but it's not news.
Right.
And you'll see in that keywords or trigger words. Okay, things that emotionally ramp you up or things that emotionally take you down. And by doing it this way, they're blanketing it. And they keep a blanket on it. You see some stories just keep repeating and repeating and repeating.
Mm-hmm.
And yet
with slight variations, I assume.
Slight variations, but not much.
Mm-hmm.
But they're, again, not news.
Right.
What you brought up at the beginning of the show, Trump gets accused of calling, soldiers, fallen soldiers, losers, and suckers.
Right.
When Joe Biden's calling them bastards.
Right.
Well, a few hours after the Atlantic ran that story, they recanted it and they said, yeah, Trump, it was raining out and it was a Secret Service.
Yeah.
So they totally stepped back on it.
Yeah.
But
the damage,
was immediate.
yeah, damage is done. Sure.
And how long did that play out?
Weeks. Still, it's going on. Biden used it in the debate.
Okay. Now, here's the kicker with it. Why would they do that? Because they know Biden's story is going to break.
Yeah.
Now, the thing about an information operation, it doesn't matter what the information is. It's controlling the information.
And the reaction of the people receiving it.
That's what it does.
Yeah.
So you're getting people fired up on both sides. People that support Trump and are very patriotic. He said, what?
Yeah.
Okay, and you're getting that reaction. And it sparks its incredulousness. They can't believe that he would say something like that. What's going on? But there's a big hiccup because Trump didn't say that. So you have Donald Trump and the people around him wondering where's this coming from? Which happened, and what did it take? A day before they started standing up?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've lost our guest in Ukraine. This has happened for several days now. Obviously, someone really doesn't want him to talk about what he's telling us. George is highly knowledgeable on the subject and has been literally chased around the world by certain agencies. So we apologize, but looks like his connection is gone. So I think that was a very good overview of what we want to talk about over the next few months and explain to you in depth as to what's happening. And obviously current events will impact who we're going to bring on. We've got some very exciting guests coming up for you. We've got other people who were intimately involved in the information operation that was run out of Ukraine and then in the US against President Trump. We've got experts on election engineering. We've got experts on polling. We talked to you about how the polling is all corrupt, or at least most of it. So we're going to get in depth into these subjects over the next few weeks to months. And I think you'll really enjoy the show. Each show is going to be different and exciting, and you'll want to catch each episode. One thing I will talk about is yesterday we broke a story here at CD Media that Ambassador Maria Yovanovitch, who testified in the impeachment trial, that she didn't know much about Burisma, which paid Hunter Biden. It wasn't a big issue in her term. Emails were leaked that showed that she was actually very worried about it and very worried about a man named Alexander Onyshenko who left Ukraine due to him releasing corruption information on the president, Poroshenko at that time. So he had to leave Ukraine, and then he was on his way to testify in the U.S. To DOJ and others during the impeachment trial, not to testify at the trial, but to give his information to the U.S. to law enforcement in the U.S. Welcome back to the SCIF. I hope you enjoyed the interview with George. We let it go a little long into some other stuff there. Sorry about that. But we will be back tomorrow with the Roarin' Show. We have Pete Blaber on Ukraine SITREP. We're going to dig into the nefarious behavior of the Europeans, the lies of Kellogg, on and on and on, and hoping Trump gets good information. We're going to turn up the blowtorch and hope he can hear us. So thank you for joining us on the SCIF. Please support our social media. Give us a donation to help fight the cyber issues we're having right now if you can. And that's on cdm.press, top corner. Support us. And sign up for our social media. Sign up for our podcast. Even if you don't listen to podcasts, just sign up, subscribe on any podcast provider to the SCIF. And we're just trying to bounce our numbers up as big as possible because that's when people see bigger numbers, they fear you because you can bring truth. And that's where we want to be. We lost 500,000 followers several years ago when we were deplatformed, and we're rebuilding. So thank you. We'll be back tomorrow with a Roaring Show. Thank you for joining the SCIF. Tell your friends, spread the links, and we'll see you tomorrow, 10 a.m., 10 to noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. Thank you.